Hello and welcome everyone to some series of videos of Arcanum of Steamworks and Magix Obscura. This is Troll Vidal, and I know I've been gone a while, but a lot of stuff's been happening, and I just been testing a bunch of different ways to go about things, because like I said, the YouTube was giving me a lot of trouble with the last set of Vanguard Bandits, so I took a break for a while just because out of frustration, and decided to try something else. So I'm trying out a new recorder. I've done some tests and it works pretty well with what I'm trying to do. And you'll probably see these little watermarks in the corners here. I can't see them right now, but they will show up when I do put this up. You know, it'll show up in the final video. And that's because this is the free version of this BSR? It's BRS or BSR? It'll probably say down there. It's a screen recorder. It's really nice. The files are manageably sized, and it's free. You know, aside from the watermark, that's the only difference really. And I think it works really well, and it'll work well with this game, as well as some of the other older PC games that I really like, but I can't really record with fraps due to hard drive space and it just not really working as well. But this should work really well and allow me to show off some of my favorite old crpgs that I really like. So this first video is going to be just showing off the character creation up to just before the game really starts. I'm going to try to explain a little bit about how the game works. This is my second take, because I rambled a lot in the last one, so I'm going to try to make myself a bit more coherent this time. But Arcanum is a steampunk fantasy story where there's a large focus on the interaction between technology versus magic. That's like one of the main kind of cruxes of the game and one of the main systems in the game. And it's also, you know, one of the driving forces of a lot of the plot elements. So it's a really interesting system and I really like it. So this is one of those things that I really liked about it. But you can either pick a pre-made character, which has a large amount of characters to select from. But I make my own characters. That's how I play. Right. You get pretty standard, you know, kind of role-playing game stats. Strength is what you think it is. It's carry load, you know, physical damage, stuff like that. Intelligence affects your dialogue choice, your dialogue options, as well as your different technological disciplines, and it has a minor effect on spells. And you know, generally, you know, it's good if you're going for a more smarty pants character. You got Constitution, which is your health and your fatigue, as well as your endurance, your endurances and resistances and stuff like that. Willpower is the main focus for spellcasters. It affects your fatigue as well as your resistances, but it's mostly used for the requirements for higher level spells. Dexterity is your manual dexterity. It affects a lot of your combat abilities, as well as how fast your turns go and how many actions you can really get going. Perception, it's how good you are at spotting things, spotting hidden items or people trying to sneak up on you. Beauty is very kind of weak stat. It basically affects the initial impression someone has on seeing you. It basically means literally the first impression someone has just by how you look, and that kind of sets up how you'll interact with people. It's useful, but it's not really good. I mean, it tends to be a dump stat for a lot of people when you can, you know, just not putting any points into it, because it really doesn't help that much. I mean, it's nice to have, but it's not really required. Charisma affects your abilities of persuasion, how charming you are, the amount of followers you can have, you know, works a lot with a lot of the social abilities. So, you know, it's some of the standards fare, you know, and then beauty's kind of thrown in there randomly. And willpower is not always connected to a lot of things. You can male or female. Males have straight up average stats across the board to start off with. Females lose a point of strength, but gain a point of con. You know, that one of the things of slightly weaker, but, you know, tougher. You'd have a selection of races you can choose from. A lot of the normal fantasy fare, but, you know, it depends on kind of what you go for. Females don't have access to about, like, half the races for some reason. I don't know why, but you don't. Female, you can only be human, elf, half-elf, and half-orc, and a male can be anything. You have humans, dwarves, elves, half-elves as dead, gnomes, halflings, half-orcs, and half-ogres. Your race does actually affect a lot of in-game interactions. It's not really, it's not as cosmetic as you might think it is. A lot of races have prejudice toward other races. Like, racial tensions are one of the other major sort of interactions. So, if you go with, like, a half-orc or half-ogre, a lot of people will look down on you. If you're an elf, dwarves won't really like you that much. If you're a dwarf, elves aren't going to like you very much. And, it also affects sort of your own interpretations. There's a pretty funny thing that, I might show off as a bonus video with a dwarf character just at the start of this game, just because of the sort of main overarching plot. Has a big connection with elves and dwarves. So if it's as funny as I remember it is, I might have a little bonus video for that, but that's a little bit down the road. As you'd expect, you know, humans don't have any particular special modifiers, but if you choose another race, you'll have a lot of different effects on your stats and your skills and what you can do. You know, like I said, tech versus magic is a major thing in this, so, you know, that's mainly comes into play with the dwarves and elves. Elves are much more magically focused, where dwarves are much more tech focused, and that'll affect kind of the abilities that you're good with. I haven't played all the races. I've done a couple of run-throughs of this game, you know, with doing different things. So I haven't done everything, because there's so many different ways to customize your character. But, I've done a couple run-throughs, and I know enough to kind of get by, and it has been a while since I played, admittedly. So, you will see, I will be relearning as I come along. But, I'll try to show off as much as I can of the game. I'm going to try to make my character as neutrally aligned as possible, so I can try to show off as much as I can. But I do have sort of a built-in mind I'm going to be working on, so keep that in mind. The extra thing you have here as well is the backgrounds, which you don't have to choose them, they're completely optional, but by choosing one, you get different benefits and minuses, which basically just add a little depth to your character. You know, basically the idea is they're all balanced. You know, anything you pick will be balanced, you know, with a positive and a negative aspect. But, you know, the more extreme the benefit, the more extreme the negative. And basically it just gives you different ways to kind of start off, and they, you know, some of them have effects on kind of your interactions with the world, and some of them are just more of a personal taste of wanting to have different stat buffs and such. So what I'm gonna do, let's see, I'm going to do a half-elf, because I want to be elfish, but not too elfish. And we're going to be going with Professional Knife Tosser. I might show off some of these other random ones. There's a lot of different ones. I mean, like, the Professional Knife Tosser was what I'm going to go with, because of just the build I have in my head. You used to work as a knife thrower in a circus, until losing your eye in a freak accident. Sadly, you lose 1 point of perception, but you gain an exceptional bonus to your throwing skill. Basically, I'm going to be going, throwing is going to be my main combat ability, is what I'm aiming for. So this is the background I'm going to be choosing. But the backgrounds can range from something as mundane as this, which is literally just sort of a 1-point exchange across a couple different things, to being completely off the wall. We're talking Frankenstein monster, escape from a mental asylum, raised by animals, barbarian, you know, like all kinds of like really dramatic changes, which can really change how your game goes. So I think the background system is really awesome and can make for a lot of replayability with how you go about the game. But like I said, I have a character in mind, so we're going to be going as a professional knife thrower named Troa. Alright, you get 5 points to spend to start off with, which is criminally low, but, you know, you get more as you go along. Anything that you put in, you know, costs 1 point. So, I mean, if you want to rank up your skills, it's 1 point. If you want to rank up your abilities, it's all 1 point. I don't know if that I don't remember off the top of my head if it changes when you're higher level. Does it cost more points to do stuff? But, yeah. You can even affect your starting health and your starting fatigue if you wish. So it gives you, again, a lot of customization for how you can start your game off. Now, I'm going to give a quick rundown of sort of the interface here. You got your skills, which are basically, you know, your general life skills. You got combat, thieving ability, social, and tech skills. Tech being, you know, more mundane skills but are related to technology. Which, you know, because technology is sort of an up-and-coming thing right now in this world. So, there's a whole series of those. You got technological disciplines, which is basically like inventing. Basically means that you can take different items that you find around the world and combine them to create items. It's the crafting system, but it's all related to technology for the most part. So basically, if you decide to, you know, go for a lot more tech focus, you can, you know, create. You can become a smith, and you can kind of create some, you know, smith some items up. You can, you know, create, you know, grenades or healing elixirs, you know, that aren't connected to magic. You know, and if you go completely toward the extreme, you can make like steampunk robots and stuff like that to help you out in fighting. So it's, you know, it's a lot of fun. It's basically was designed to make tech as interesting as magic, because magic, of course, gives you a lot of options as well. The other option here, of course, is spell colleges, which is basically you have 16 colleges of magic. You have 8 technological disciplines, by the way. And you have 16 colleges of magic, and each one of those has 5 spells in them. Your spells are based off your willpower and your level. You know, so you can't, you know, just spend a whole bunch of points and become super ridiculously powerful in you know, in a certain magic start off the game. You know, that would kind of break the game a bit. But spells, basically anything you can do with tech, you can do with spells. Sometimes you can do a bit more with spells. But again, you know, you have a lot of flexibility with how you want to go about things. I'm going to try to remain... Oh yeah, before I say that, I should probably point out this little side thing here. This is your aptitude meter. Because like I said, magic and technology are sort of counterintuitive. So basically this rates how aligned you are with one or the other. The higher you are toward one side, the more effective that kind of item is when you use it, and the less effective the opposite side is. So, I mean, if you're a hardcore spellcaster going total magic with magic equipment and everything like that, tech equipment you can't even really use. It'll either not function, or it'll be so diluted by your magical power that it won't even be worth using. And, you know, if you're going tech side, healing spells, but, you know, both offensive and, you know, defensive and stuff like that, just won't work on you very well. If, you know, if you're trying to heal yourself with a healing spell, but you're like a hardcore inventor, the spells are more likely to fail and not do anything at all. So, really, if you decide to really go toward one direction, you kind of cut yourself off from the other half of the content. I'm going to try to remain neutral, so I can use both kinds of items and recruit both kinds of people, but we'll see how it works. This little gauge here is your alignment. It's your standard morality system, good and evil. Not much to say there. But what we're going to do is we're going to be a knife thrower. So we're going to design ourselves to be particularly good at this. Now, you only have 5 points to spend to start off. Like I said, it doesn't give you much to work with, but it kind of lets you set the groundwork for what you want to do. So what I'm first going to do, I'm going to put a point into Charisma. Not because it really connects to anything I want to do initially, but one of the first companions you stumble across, you need a 9 Charisma to recruit him. And I kind of want him because he's a big bodyguard guy, so I kind of want his help. So I'm going to be putting a point there, which again, since it's not really connected to anything I'm doing initially, it is kind of a but oh well. Dex is the main skill for throwers, and most melee. The only weapon skill that doesn't use Dex is firearms, which uses perception. But, we're going to be going throwing, as said. So we want to put a point. See, if I put 2 points in here, we'll have 3, because I was a half-elf, I got a +1 Dex on its own, so that meant that I could go up to rank 3 immediately. And that'll mean that my percentage to hit with throwing weapons is much higher. Basically, with the skills, you have 5 ranks you can level up in, and then on top of that, you can then get training from professionals, because basically, even if you have maxed out a skill, you're considered untrained. It means you have a good natural talent for it, but you're not really trained in it. If you talk to trainers and pay them money and they train you, you get special benefits, like you know, having increased range with your abilities, or you know. I think the first one is that your speed for throwing. I think the first one is like your speed for your speed attacks are much quicker, so that means you can do more attacks. You know, so it's nice. It's one of those things. It's another way to kind of customize your character, where you can even max out a skill, but you don't have to train in it if you don't want to. If I wanted to, I could put some points into my health or fatigue, which is a nice touch, because that's one of those things is that you tend to just be stuck with. But yeah, you can buff those up, which is always kind of nice. And I got 2 more points to spend, and I want to go to explosives. Now you saw, originally I was at 5% magic, because I'm a half-elf, which elves are naturally magical. So by putting a point, though, in my tech discipline, I have jumped my way down to neutral. Because you see, as this is the amount of experience I have. And basically that means I can make Molotov cocktails, which are fun. Basically, they're very simple grenades. You just put a rag into a thing of fuel, and it's just very simple grenades. I'm going to be going up grenades because that's useful for throwing characters. But I'm also going to be doing probably some magic spells, because I'm going to try to even myself out. But I could get a flash grenade, which it confuses enemies. Let's see, I'm debating. Because if I go that way, I put myself more toward tech to start off with. I'll be at 6 tech. But yeah, I start off at 5, and that goes to 0, and that goes to 6. So I mean, that'll, like I said, that's a good way to keep track of kind of how aligned you are. It's very simple, very straightforward. But yeah, so I think if I put those in here now, then that means I don't have to worry about it later. I don't have to worry about healing magic so much right now, because when we start off the game, we'll have somebody who can kind of help with that. So we don't have to worry too much about healing to start off with. But yeah, I think I will do that. That'll give me a decent throwing to start off with, as well as the ability to start making some grenades, which will be nice and will help out with things. So again, eventually I will get some spells, just due to kind of necessity. But that's not going to be my goal to start off with. So I'm going to be mostly tech focused to start off with. Unless I end up going tech again, we'll see. I don't know. We'll see how I go. If you wanted to, as opposed to doing all the customization yourself, there are auto-leveling schemes, which you can kind of aim your way toward different things. But I prefer to just do it my own way. Again, I'm more used to the system, but I just think it's more interesting to be able to just handle your own skills and buff what you think you need to do. You can gimp yourself. It is possible, but it's very hard. It's very hard to make a character that isn't viable. Even a talky-focused character is viable. Now, you start off on a Zeppelin heading heading to a continent of Tarant, I believe the name it is. So you're starting as a guest on this Zeppelin. So you start off with a suit or a dress, depending if you're male or female. And even that gives you some armor class and damage resistance, because, well, it's something you're not naked. And you also start with 400 gold. Different backgrounds will give you less or more gold, depending. And either there's like Fugitive of the Law, you don't have any money, but you start off with some equipment. There's an Inheritance one, which you get a very minor minus to your stats, but you get extra gold. So again, very different ways to start off your fighting. Now, we're throwing focused, so we want the all-powerful boomerang. You laugh, but because of my special ability, my special going into throwing, this is a very effective weapon. There are better weapons, and as a thrower I can pick up rocks or grenades, as said. But yeah. Flintlock pistols, again for gunslingers, rifles. As you can see, some of the stuff is really expensive, which you really just can't afford to start off with, but I get some lock picks if I wanted to pick locks, but I don't have any pick lock abilities. So, and that boomerang will serve us well for now. Oh yeah, also that you can get different kinds of armor, like these like army jackets, which are kind of sort of more kind of industrial evolution kind of armor, but as well you can also find magical plate mail or super tech armor and stuff like that. So depending on what your race is, it also depends on kind of items variety. I mean, if you're a half ogre, it's gonna be hard to find equipment because you can only wear large equipment. Which means when you find some, it'll be nice, and you will be very tough as it is, but it makes it a bit harder. Small people like dwarves and gnomes and halflings are a bit easier to come by, but at the same time it's still not as easy to come by as just standard normal-sized stuff, so something to keep in mind. I'm not going to get any equipment, not getting any armor, because I know you can get some at the beginning, and plus I'm going to be ranged anyway, so I'm not going to have to worry too much about it. I will pick up some healing potions, just because it can't hurt. I don't think I want to get any poison. Let's see. I could waste a bunch of money on a helmet and get more minus to my perception, but no. Get some boots. Because, yeah, let me show you. This is sort of the paper doll effect of you got your chest armor, which is basically your normal, like it'll cover like your sort of chest and legs. You got boots, you got a shield or a torch, offhand. You got your main hand weapon, you got your gloves, helmets, 2 rings, and a necklace. And again, some of these can be magical, some of these can be tech, and they'll do different things, give you different bonuses. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put on our nice suit, get a little bit of armor, not much, but something. I don't think I could buy the dress. I think I could actually wear the dress, but that'd be silly. We're not gonna do that. So we're gonna put that on there, which is our awesome attack. As you can see, our base hit is 102% because we put a bunch of skills into that. So that's very nice. Let's see. So I'm not gonna get any armor. I can't afford the shield. Yeah, so you don't get a lot of. It's really hard to get like really good items to start off with, just because, well, money. But I will get a fatigue potion, even though I don't really need it just yet. But it can't hurt to have. They don't take up a lot of space. Should I get boots? I will get boots. Can't hurt. So it gives you a bit of damage resistance. AC, if I'm not mistaken, is whether you get hit at all. Damage resistance, actually reduce the damage you take. So, but But yeah, there's bullets and guns and all that manner of stuff, bows and arrows. I've actually always attempted to do an archer character, but I'm going to stick with my throwing character. And that'll be pretty much it. We're going to stop here. Next time, I will click this, and we will move on to the actual game. So, until then, everybody, later.